Hey, what's up, everybody? Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. I hope wherever you are across this great nation or this great land, you are having a fantastic Tuesday. About to finish with you guys and go pick up my boys at school. I hope, like I said, that you have been having a good week already. We've got a lot to dive into. Right off the top, let me give you a rundown of where we're headed. The NFL playoff picture in the AFC and the NFC starting to come into shape. We got the top five, bottom five. Taunting penalty last night mars the ending of Bears Steelers. Where is Odell Beckham Jr. headed? Dan Mullen under fire. What should the Florida Gators do? Mike Fisher, former Nashville Predator, supports Aaron Rodgers. Yellowstone. I watched episodes 1 and 2. I'll give you my review. Columbia in the Ivy League, Columbia University has gone 615 days without basketball. Remember, 15 days to stop the spread. The Raiders have released another first-round draft pick. This one, Damon Arnette, after he posted an Instagram video threatening to kill people while holding a gun. Scott Frost back for a 5th year at Nebraska, and Cali and New York have way more COVID cases than Florida, but most in the media are not discussing it. Per capita, by the way, since everybody loves to say per capita. But let's start here. Top 5, bottom 5 in the NFL after Week 9 action. Top 5 teams in the NFL. Cardinals, 8-1, leaders in the NFC. They've done the most so far this season. One without Kyler Murray on the road against the 49ers. I've got the Cardinals as the best team in the NFL. Got the Packers as the second best. I feel like they would have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs if Aaron Rodgers had been able to play. Barely lost anyway. Got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the third best team. All 3 NFC teams right there at the top. And then, get ready for it, boys and girls. My Tennessee Titans sliding in at the 4 spot in the top 5 in the NFL. And then I've got the team that the Titans beat on Sunday night. The Rams in at the 5th spot. Again, my top 5, the Cardinals, the Packers, the Bucks, the Titans, and the Rams. Those are, right now, the 5 best teams in the NFL. The bottom 5 teams in the NFL. I've got the Washington football team sitting at 2-6 at 28 overall. The Jags at 29. Dolphins at 30. Texans at 31. And the poor Lions sitting right now at 32. NFL playoff picture. Thought this was interesting right now. You can go look at how the NFL playoff picture would shake out. And it's intriguing if nothing else. Number 1 team right now in the AFC would be the Tennessee Titans, followed by the Baltimore Ravens, the Chargers, the Buffalo Bills. Vegas would be your 5 seed. Pittsburgh would be your 6 seed, and the 7 team right now in the AFC playoff picture would be the New England Patriots. So you would see 2 play 7, 3 play 6, and 4 play 5. That would mean the Ravens would host the Patriots, the Chargers would host the Steelers, and the Bills would host the Las Vegas Raiders, with the Titans taking on the winner there, getting the bye in the divisional round. Titans would take the lowest seeded team remaining. In the NFC, Cardinals, Arizona first, Green Bay Packers 2, Bucks 3, Cowboys 4. We got the Rams in the 5 spot, the Saints in the 6 spot, and the Atlanta Falcons would be right now your final playoff team. Atlanta Falcons would go on the road against Green Bay. Tampa Bay would host New Orleans, and Dallas would host the LA Rams, with the Arizona Cardinals getting a bye week. That is where we are sitting right now. Speaking of where we're sitting right now, did you know, and I bet that a lot of you did not know this, that right now the state of Florida has the lowest rate of COVID infection per capita in the entire nation? They have a rate, and I'm looking at this right now, literally as I am talking to you, the most updated numbers from the New York Times. The state of Florida has a COVID rate 7 in 100,000. This is a per capita, numbers adjusted, per 100,000 population. Florida, lowest state in the nation at a COVID rate of 7 per 100,000. Okay? How about New York? 22 per 100,000. New York, which has vaccine mandates and also has mask mandates, has right now triple the rate of COVID infection as Florida. Let me repeat that. New York, 22 in 100,000 over the last 14 days, over triple the rate. And California, with their hiding governor, Gavin Newsom, 16 in 100,000. California right now, over double the rate of COVID infection in Florida. Why is this significant? Because I bet a huge percentage of you had no idea about the latest data from COVID because you've been conditioned to believe that Florida, without a mask mandate and without a vaccine mandate, that people are dying like crazy, that the infection rate is through the roof, when in reality, the numbers don't support that at all. Worth paying attention to going forward to see whether your friends at the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC will address this at all. This is also why federalism is important in our country, because we need to give the states opportunities to be laboratories and see which ones end up working out the best. And right now, all of the restrictions have not panned out in any sort of measurable way. Speaking of Florida, what do we do with Dan Mullen? What should the Florida Gators do with Dan Mullen going forward? He fires defensive coordinator Todd Grantham. He has fired his offensive line coach, even though both of those guys are doing much better jobs this year than they did last year. Obviously, Dan Mullen feels like things are circling on him and feels like he is under pressure in a significant way. So what ends up happening here with the Florida Gators going forward? I think it's a great question. Will Dan Mullen be back? My analogy is this is like a couple that wants to get divorced but doesn't have any way to live anywhere else. So they're stuck in the same house together, potentially for a whole nother year. So what is the end result going to be here with Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators? The best case scenario would be that an NFL owner is enamored of Dan Mullen and pulls a Cliff Kingsbury and goes and grabs him from college and brings him into the NFL game, which frees up the Florida Gators to be able to hire anyone they want. The challenge here, certainly beyond a shadow of a doubt, the biggest challenge is how is this all going to shake out? How is this going to shake out? Because I think Dan Mullen is going to be back. I think the Gators are not going to be very good next year, and then they're going to be looking for a new coach. If you had to choose, Tennessee seems like they're going to be on the upswing a little bit, at least, with Josh Heupel. Kentucky's not awful. Certainly the Georgia Bulldogs are dominating at a level unlike any level that Georgia's ever dominated at before. South Carolina may be trending up a little bit. Vanderbilt doesn't look very good at all. And Missouri doesn't look very good at all. So the SEC East is ripe right now for a challenger to step up to Georgia, maybe by next season, and see who can challenge them for the SEC East throne. I am intrigued indeed to see what happens, but Dan Mullen feels like he is done to me at Florida. Yellowstone. Love this show. Appreciate the shout out for Outkick the coverage in episode 2 from Rip and Beth. Love everything about this show. Yes, it is like Dallas in Montana. It is highly melodramatic, but my God, the scenery is beautiful. I love everything about this show and the way that it is made so entertaining. I watched episodes 1 and 2 last night. From a television viewing perspective, my top 2 shows that I watch right now are Succession. I got to catch up on Sunday's edition of Succession. And I also love Yellowstone. Both of these airing on Sunday during football season feels wildly unfair to me. I've got to take a trip sooner rather than later to Montana. I've never been. I'd love to do it right. Maybe that's going to be the summer destination for the Travis family before all is said and done. But I love the Yellowstone television show. You know, I've fought harder than almost anyone in all of media, harder than almost anybody with a public platform at all, for college sports to come back last year. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. I'm not sure if Outkick didn't exist. I'm not sure that college sports would have found a way to play last year. Because a lot of people wanted to do what the Ivy League did. You know, the Ivy League shut down basketball back in March of last year, earlier than anybody else. And they just returned at Columbia to allow basketball season to be played after 615 days that they shut down basketball. How crazy is that to think about? 15 days to stop the spread turned into Columbia in the Ivy League, supposedly the best and brightest out there, spending 615 days without actually playing basketball. This is what would have happened if the Corona bros out there had gotten their way. They would have shut down. They would have shut down sports. We wouldn't have played all of last year. Might have even been challenged this year. It's pure unadulterated madness. You know what else is madness? Paying too much for your cell phone bill. You know, my friends at Pure Talk, you need to go to puretalk.com and shop for the right plan and phone that's right for you. The guys at Pure Talk have been into my house. They've sat down at my table. My own son has a Pure Talk phone, and they can save you a bundle. 50% off your first month, up to $800 in a year. You can also get great Black Friday prices like a brand new iPhone for just $479. You can also get unlimited talk, text, 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. All you have to do is go to puretalk.com, shop for the plan that's right for you, enter the promo code OUTKICK, and you save 50% off your first month, and you'll save on a new phone as well. That's puretalk.com, promo code OUTKICK. One more time, puretalk.com, promo code OUTKICK. Want to give a shout out not only to Aaron Rodgers, who spoke out and was willing and able to elucidate a lot of what many athletes and coaches feel about the crazy dogma surrounding COVID. But most athletes weren't willing to say publicly, or former athletes, what Mike Fisher did for the Nashville Predators. Mike Fisher came out and said he supports Aaron Rodgers. I don't know Mike Fisher very well, but props to him for being willing to step out and take on all of these insane left-wing blue checkmark losers who are convinced that COVID is going to actually kill them. Let me give you some stats here. This is from the Wall Street Journal this morning. Marty McCary had a great piece. Said there are 28 million kids between the ages of 5 and 11. 28 million of them. 2 of those 28 million are my kids. I've got a first grader and a fifth grader, a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. Do you know that 60%, according to his piece in the Wall Street Journal, have likely had COVID already? 60% of all 5 to 11-year-olds have likely already had COVID. Do you know how many kids have died with COVID in that 28 million since COVID started? 94. 94 kids have died with COVID between the ages of 5 and 11. There are 28 million kids between the ages of 5 and 11. 94 of them are kids who have died. You know what kids are more likely to have died of? By far, murder. They are more likely to have drowned. They are more likely to have died in car accidents. They are more likely to have died of the seasonal flu. The masks aren't protecting them, but thankfully there isn't much to protect them from. Getting your kid vaccinated for COVID, in my opinion, especially if they are between the ages of 5 and 11, is pure, unadulterated madness. It is not science. It is not supported by the data at all. 28 million kids under the age of 12, 94 of them have died since COVID began. That's fewer than die in a year from the seasonal flu, way fewer than drown, way fewer than die in car accidents, way fewer than are murdered. It's crazy. So I give credit to Mike Fisher for speaking out. The Raiders, between John Gruden's email scandal that cost him his job, Henry Ruggs allegedly killing a woman while driving drunk, and now Damon Arnette, who has been released, another first-round pick of the Vegas Raiders. This is as bad of an off-field month as I can remember for any franchise in modern history. Maybe the Vegas Raiders are going to have to reconsider the way that they draft based on being located in Vegas. Maybe there's no connection to it at all. Maybe Henry Ruggs would have gotten in the same amount of trouble anywhere else. Maybe Damon Arnette would as well. I don't think the John Gruden mess is created by the Las Vegas connection. But my goodness, the Raiders, 2 first-round picks, one in prison, potentially facing serious charges for manslaughter while driving drunk. The other on video, Instagram, walking around with a gun, threatening to kill everybody. As a result, you can make a solid argument, I really think you can, that the Raiders have had the worst off-field month, maybe in the modern history of sports for anyone. Do you ever wonder what to do to combat rising inflation, rising tax rates, and the fact that the stock market is near all-time highs? Do you wonder where the best place to stock your money might be? I got to tell you, you can buy farmland. There is likely to be a major run every time more farmland is available as inflation continues to surge. Right now with Farmfolio, you can own a lime farm. I own now a lime farm. I'm not an expert in limes, but I know that the trees grow, and as they grow, they produce more limes, and those limes are then pulled and shipped to United States supermarkets so that you get a recurring return on your investment while your land continues to increase in value as well. Farmfolio has created land ownership titles. You get a piece of cash flowing farmland, just like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. I talked about the fact that when my grandfather retired, he worked his entire life at DuPont. He bought land, and he bought land because he wanted to hedge against inflation. So we have still in the Travis family a West Tennessee farm that has continued to increase in value that my grandfather left to us. Inflation's rising. Stocks may be close to all-time highs and set to come back substantially. Taxes are about to go way up. You need to protect your assets now by buying a piece of farmland today. Head over to farmfolio.net/clay. That's farmfolio.net/clay. To learn more about farmland ownership, contact Farmfolio at farmfolio.net/clay. That's farmfolio.net/clay. Scott Frost is coming back for year 5 at Nebraska. The Scott Frost tenure has not gone the way that anyone thought it would, myself included. In fact, let me go ahead and hit you with Scott Frost's records at Nebraska. Now, the defense has gotten a lot better this year, and I think it's fair to say that the higher level expectation here was maybe really difficult to lead up to because Scott Frost was only a head coach at Central Florida for 2 years. He hit lightning in a bottle, went 13-0 in year 2, took over at Nebraska, and has gone 4-8, 5-7, 3-5, and he's sitting right now at 3-7, 15-27 overall as a head coach at Nebraska. Never better than 5th in the West, which is the weaker side of the Big Ten. 10-23 on the season in the Big Ten, including 1-6 this year. But he is now coming back for a 5th year. Trev Alberts has decided to do that, and we will see what exactly ends up happening. Trev Alberts, of course, the AD at Nebraska, whether or not that is the right call going forward. Finally, Odell Beckham Jr. headed to waivers, potentially free agency. We will find out shortly whether or not he is going to be able to be picked up by anybody. In the meantime, Josh Reynolds has gotten his release from the Titans, and Reynolds has not gotten much success there. But that is one bit of waiver news that is out there. We are still waiting on officially the news as to what might happen with Odell Beckham Jr. I will tell you, COVID is going to become more and more an issue in the NFL as we get down through the winter months and as we enter into them. But Nick Chubb, who is double vaccinated, has now ended up, Nick Chubb, testing positive for COVID, so there's questions about whether or not he will be able to play. And that is turning into a major issue going forward to see how many other players are out there. Now, everybody's ridiculing Aaron Rodgers. The positive is Aaron Rodgers is now not required to test for COVID because he tested positive for 90 days. So that should get him through the rest of the process before all is said and done. Odell Beckham Jr. went unclaimed today on waivers. He is a free agent, free to sign wherever he wants. So we will see how many people out there end up with a real rush at Odell Beckham Jr. to see what might end up happening there before all is said and done. Again, Odell Beckham Jr., the news, he's officially cleared waivers. Reports are that Odell Beckham Jr. is favored by the Green Bay Packers. In other words, that he wants to go to the Green Bay Packers. We'll see whether or not somebody like the Packers is able to make a play to go grab Odell Beckham Jr., and we'll see where he ends up going before all is said and done. All right, I love all of you. Encourage you to make sure that you go subscribe to everything at Outkick. Check out Outkick.com every single day. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I got to right now go pick up my kids. Appreciate all of you. I will see you guys tomorrow.